Hey, what is up, everyone? Thank you for joining another Speedcast interview session. I am your host, Zoom CW, also known as Julio. Today I'm very excited, super excited, because I actually have another member of the ISA team joining me today for an interview. She is none other than the super talented, no nonsense principal. She's also she's the principal during the day, but she's the fiddler at night. So she has two jobs. She is none other than Hina X. I'm very excited to have her on the Speedcast interview today. Thank you everyone for joining. Um, I truly appreciate all your support. So let's go ahead and get Hina on the IG live. Okay.
Hi.
Hina, how are you?
I got here just in time. I was like driving and I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna be late.
Uh, I was worried about you. I was like, oh, please drive safe.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join my Speedcast interview session. I don't know if you saw my intro, but you are the no nonsense. You play the no nonsense disciplinarian, if you will, mama bear of a
Yes.
principal, Anaya Bowen, during the day, but at night you are a member of the ISA. You are the fiddler. So before we continue, I just want to ask you, how are you doing during this pandemic? How are you holding up? Is your family healthy and safe? And are you binge watching anything or reading anything?
I binged watched. Is it late? Is it late? Is it loud? Can you hear me? Okay, let me close this door.
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good.
Recently I binge watched. This isn't new. I think I just hadn't watched it before. This Amazon Prime show called Hannah. Do you know
Okay,
that show?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I binge watched that. That was really cool.
Oh,
But I'm
nice.
I'm doing okay. I'm trying to. It just kind of depends on the day. It's a little bit of a roller coaster, because I feel like
Yes.
we're living in a sci-fi movie. Like it's just bizarre. It's a bizarre time.
I know, right? I mean, whoever would have written this possibly could have got an Oscar for this, adaptation of the life we are living in today, correct? I mean, it's just insane. It's
It's
crazy what we're going
insane.
through.
I feel like this is a time where superheroes and supervillains could actually show up, and I'd be like, yeah, cool. That makes sense. Like it totally happened.
I wanted to ask you, during this time with the pandemic, and I mentioned this to your colleagues, there's a light that's been shed more on, the streaming services, the TV shows, that normally, they wouldn't get this type of coverage. But you guys are, you know, taking over for the feature film, if you will, because folks can't go to the AMC or, the theaters or whatever. But I'm so happy that there's more of a light shed on you guys right now. And Stargirl couldn't have come at a better time, especially with in this crazy life that we're living in. How do you feel about that?
I think that even before the pandemic, TV has sort of like been in its golden age, right? Um, there's just you see big movie stars doing TV now, and that's been going on for a while before COVID. So I think this has just even accelerated that even more and given more of a platform for all different kinds of streaming. It's sort of a double-edged sword because there's so much opportunity for content, and so there's so much opportunity for content. So there's a
Mm.
lot to digest. I can't keep up with it.
There's definitely a lot. You mentioned Amazon. They have so much content on there. I was pleasantly surprised and amazed. Hannah's a good one. Neil Jackson is on another one, which is Absentia.
Yes,
And I don't know if you got any chance to see that one, but that one is also
I
just
haven't.
mind
Don't
blowing.
tell him. It
I won't
shows
even
up.
tell him.
It shows up on Prime, and I'm partly, though, the reason that I haven't watched it is I'm worried that I get addicted to shows, and so watch it be really good, and I'm like, oh, now I gotta watch this whole thing.
You know, it's very addicting, definitely. Absentia is one of those where we just binge watched the first season like in one night. I mean, I think I went to bed like at, I don't remember, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. It was
This
crazy. I
is what
started
I'm
like,
afraid of. This is what I'm afraid of.
even Neil was like, "You saw the whole thing already?" I was like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "Whoa."
And
But,
there's
you
how
know,
many seasons?
they're on three.
See,
They're
yeah,
on three.
it's a lot.
Yeah, so it's a lot. I mean, but it's so addicting and you know, late nights, but it was worth it. Before I continue, I just want to congratulate you on a
Thank you.
job well done on Stargirl.
Thank you.
You totally rocked it. You were amazing. You know, your portrayal of your version of the Fiddler, Jeff Johns' version of the Fiddler for this particular series it has been amazing. Now, in my opinion, you have had one of the toughest roles because during the day, you're the no nonsense, you know, principal, Bowen. You're pretty much taking care of all the Blue Valley's, you know, all the Blue Valley kids. But at the same time, at night, you know, you become this ISA member
Right.
that is taking lives, if you will. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think there's one of the things that I love about all these characters is that they are multi-dimensional characters. Like they have day jobs. They all have their day jobs. And at night they are working on their passion project, and their passion project might be questionable in its morality, you know, but they've got lives that they need to balance, and they actually really believe in this ISA project, New America. And their parents, they're like trying to do it for the betterment of their children's future. They're just, you know, a little dysfunctional. But
You
as
know,
the principal, I think, you know, I was talking to someone else about this in terms of the ISA characters, and did they have these professions before, or did they put themselves in these professions so that they would be in a position to influence? So who knows that she was an educator? Maybe she wasn't. Maybe what it is that she decided, let me put myself in a school where I can influence these young minds and keep an eye on them.
that's a great point.
That would
Now, I
make
know,
sense.
you know, you guys are just, oh, go ahead, sorry.
That would make sense to me to do it that way, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. To put yourself in a position of power where you can oversee the whole town,
Right.
and have that big and have that influence. Now, I know that you and Neil kind of talked about this the other day when Neil did the CW Stargirl takeover on IG, but you know, you guys have been getting a lot of positive feedback in terms of, you know, folks sympathizing with you guys. I myself am one of those folks, you know, and Neil Hopkins alluded to it last week when I interviewed him. He said, you know, oh, you know, we're just trying to get universal health care to everyone out there. You know,
Right.
that's
What's wrong with
how
that?
bad of a plan is that?
You hear that in that last episode, right? Where they're like, wait a second, that they want to erase discrimination and have healthcare for everyone. Like, this sounds like a good plan. Whose side are we on? But I think even that part of it is the genius of it, right? It's like people aren't born evil. You're a product of your experiences and what you've been through. And even these ISA villains, they're just in their own convoluted way, they're trying to make the world a better place. They just figure there's, you know, a few people might die in the process. That's okay. We're overpopulated.
Hina, just to let you know, you're getting some love from South Africa and you're getting some love from India right now. So
Oh,
we are reaching some
wow.
folks overseas. Uh,
Yay. I want
you
to
know
go
that.
to South Africa. I've never been.
Me too. I won't get in the ocean out there. There's too many too many white sharks out there.
Let's stay away from the sharks.
Yeah, I want to see the, the reef out there, but yeah, definitely. So, in this role, you are a nurturing, I alluded to it earlier, you are a nurturing mama bear, if you will, to your son, Isaac. So, you have lots of vested interest in protecting your son from the ISA. Now, you and Miss Paula Brooks, aka Tigress,
Yes.
you do not see eye to eye on
Yeah.
this part of the vision of the ISA. Paula Brooks, the great Joy, has a different vision. She's more of a hard line, tough love kind of mother. You're more of a nurturing mama bear. You're going to protect your son at, whatever it takes. You're going to be so protective that you don't want them to be, engaged in this ISA life. Can you talk about that dynamic between you and Joy, or, Paula?
Yeah, and Anaya and Paula are completely different ends of the parenting spectrum, if you will, right? And I think Anaya is like, this is what Neil Jackson and I were joking about. Anaya's the type that's gonna breastfeed her child till he's 14. Just, maybe a little unusual. But I think Anaya is just someone who believes in, like, let them be children as long as they can be children, and let's shelter them from the lives that we're leading. Whereas Paula's take is, hell no, let's put them in the front line so that they can become warriors. And I think probably a happy medium between the two would be the way to go. But clearly, Tigress Anaya was just yapping too much. Tigress had enough.
Spoiler alert, you guys. Spoiler alert, if you have not seen 12, I believe it was 12.
12.
Yeah, it was in 12. But, there was another scene, I believe it was 5 or 6, where, the coach gets, off, and, this is like the third coach they've taken care of. And, you give them this look when you present the new coach.
The look.
You gave them that look like, you bastards better not kill this coach. I'm going to come after you guys if you kill this coach. You gave them that look. Can you talk about that scene?
I didn't even realize that the look was that serious. But the director of that episode, after we shot that bit of it, and I walked off the field after giving that look, was like, God, I hope you never look at me like that. So I was like, oh, wow, I guess that must have been a serious, like, because you don't know, as an actor when you're in it exactly, you don't know until you see the final thing, right? I mean, you feel the feelings, but you don't necessarily know what your face just did. I don't know what my face is doing in real life most of the time. So
were you just immense in the moment? Were you just immense in the moment?
Mad,
were you just like,
dude, I was mad. Like, how many coaches am I gonna have to replace? It's getting ridiculous. It's not easy. Yeah. So yes, I think that look was definitely portraying, like, she's at her limit. Stop pushing. she's had enough. I like that you caught that, though.
I think, as a parent myself, we always give our children that look every now and then. You give them the stink eye, kind of like, you better not do that again.
Right.
Or you do like the rocks people eyebrow, you kind of, better not.
And that's it. That's powerful. You don't need to use any words. They know that that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't cross me. And the look that Neil Hopkins and Joy gave you back, they were just kind of like.
This is the funny thing about the ISA. Like, we're not nice to each other. Even Eric, who plays the gambler in that scene, was like, made a comment about hello friend, and they're like, we're not your friends. Yeah, these villains do not know how to get along.
Yeah,
they don't.
And they threatened them, didn't they? They said, you better pick up that trash.
They did. See, they're really environmentalists at heart. That's who.
I mentioned something to Neil Hopkins last week. I said, hey man, it looks like, your characters remind me of someone that literally goes to Sturgis and goes to a biker bar to pick fights. That's your idea of a vacation. Now for you, I imagine you going to like, the LA Philharmonic or something like out here, like the orchestra out here, and your character is deeply rooted into music. So I got to ask you, when what is Hina bumping in her car? What is Hina bumping when she's on the treadmill? What are you listening to? What's your jam?
Me or the Fiddler?
You. What are you
Oh,
jamming to?
me. Oh, it totally depends on what I'm doing. I like to clean to hip hop. If I'm cleaning my apartment, I need something that's like gonna put me in a happy dancey mood. If I just like have had a long day, I will put on classical music because I don't
Oh
want
no.
words. Because it totally depends on my mood. Oh, here's something I will admit. I guess a lot of people uh, don't like to admit if they like country, and I won't even say that I like it, but I did. I did go to school in Texas, and so I think that rubbed off on me a little bit. So anytime I have like if I'm not feeling well, if I have a cold or something, I'll put on country music, and it makes me
Oh,
feel better because it's so sweet, and they're just stories, they're like
yeah.
they're entire stories in a song. And it's really cute. So it totally depends on my mood. It's very eclectic.
That's awesome. Being, thank you for mentioning that. Being from Texas, there's a lot of mixture out there. When I went out there, the rodeo was a big deal. A
Yeah,
lot of folks in Houston, that's a big event, and that's not just country music. That's everybody. I mean, you have
yeah,
pop, and then you have, rock, and you have country music. But country music is awesome. Personally, I love to listen to some Johnny Cash. You guys had some Johnny Cash
yes,
on this
yes.
season, which was
We
awesome, by the
did.
way.
That was
The
awesome.
entire, yeah, the entire, I mean, soundtrack to this season was amazing,
It was, right? I was like pleasantly surprised by how well it all came together.
and it gave it that feel. And I mentioned this to your colleagues as well. It gave it that feel of a 13-part, movie instead of a series to me. Not only with the soundtrack, but also with the cinematography,
Yes.
the CGI, um, you know, um, the everything. I mean, the way
Yes.
that the town out there in Georgia that you filmed that, it felt like a movie to me. The script, there was no wasted episode, if you will. There was no filler episode, and I'm not trying to knock the other shows, but there was meaning behind every single scene, every single episode. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I somebody had posted something. I mean, this is such a compliment. Someone had said Stargirl is like Game of Thrones because they're just killing the characters off. And I think that in of itself makes it so interesting to watch because you just don't know what's going to happen next, and makes it more theatrical, right? More than like
Yeah.
than any TV show. It there's an element of surprise there. But just watching the way it came together, clearly money was not held back with the cinematography, with post production, the editing. Like it looked amazing, far beyond I think what any of us imagined. So I'm glad
And
that you felt that way.
and plus the acting, you guys killed it. I'm telling you, you guys
Thank
totally
you.
rocked it. Amazing. Um, you guys have embraced this spotlight. You guys, there's other. I'm not trying to put down any other actors, but you guys have pretty much embraced these roles. You have made them your own in a sense. Other actors kind of see it a little bit as a burden sometimes because it's a DC comic book role. There's a lot of expectation. There could be a burden. Comic book fans could be very critical. but the reactions from all the fans has been nothing but positive, and you guys have just relished it, and I appreciate that about you.
Thank you. It's been great to see how supportive everyone has been and how much they've loved it. It's funny, especially I think with the villains. We could not be more different. And like now you've interviewed some of us. Like I think especially we're all so goofy around each other, and then we have to like get it together and be evil. But just us hanging out was the best part. And I think that having that group dynamic helps so much. Like when you really like the people that you're working with and you're committed to a project, like it makes all the difference.
That's great, and I'm so happy for all of you. You've been doing this for a few years. I'm happy for you, Eric and Neil, and both Neils, Joy, um, uh, you know, Christopher. You guys have just embraced this, and I'm very happy for you because you guys are getting the recognition that you deserve.
Thank
Um,
you.
and it's well deserved. You guys got a 91% fresh
I
Rotten
know.
Tomato,
I
Rotten
know.
Tomato, it's English, Rotten Tomatoes certified fresh
Yeah.
rating, which is like impossible to do
Yeah.
nowadays.
We were kind of happily shocked by that. Yeah. It's such an entertaining show, and I love the fact that especially at this time when people are at home with their kids, you can watch it with your kids. Because some of the DC shows you might not want to watch them with your kids. Um, Someone's
You're getting some.
asked about hair and makeup. Oh, oh, that's Max's mom. That's so sweet. Yeah, I think partly that's one of the interesting things that, like, right now, my hair is naturally really curly. And so it has to be tamed down to do what the hair and makeup on this production was amazing. Just the stuff that they had to deal with and makeup like Dragon King. I mean, what they did
Oh
with
yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah. They don't get enough compliments and accolades, I think.
One of your episodes, I believe, was directed by Leah Thompson, right?
Yeah, yeah. That was
How was that experience?
it was so great. It was so great to have her there, and um, I believe that Jeff had said that Back to the Future was one of his sort of inspirations that he was looking at when he was creating Stargirl, and so it was really awesome to have her. It was really great to have her. She was amazing.
Were, were you at all geeking out when she was on set? Were
I
you
think
like,
all of
that's
us.
Marty
I think
McFly's
all of
mom?
us were. Yeah, all of us were for sure. We were like, we knew that she was going to be directing, and we were all just kind of in awe. It was really nice.
Hannah, I gotta ask you, and if you don't know, maybe Jeff didn't tell you this, but if you can answer this, this would be great. If you can't, um, do you know what the backstory is in regards to your husband on the show? Um, do you know anything, or was it kind of like it's a secret? We're gonna guard this, in an armored truck. The script is in an armored truck. Did you film anything with a backstory that was maybe cut? Can you tell us anything?
We have come up with a lot of humorous ideas of where my husband is, and I like to tell people that he's a rock star and he's just on tour and he's been busy. So, like, just leave him alone, let him do his thing. Um, but no, with most shows, with most things like this, you really get very little information. You certainly don't get, it would be great if we got like a little binder of here's the backstory. We don't get that.
Mm,
So you sort of have to make it up yourself and see what works
yeah.
for you. So long answer.
Oh, we got frozen, I think. Am I frozen? Let's see. I think we might have some technical issues, you guys, so we might have to restart.
Am
Oh,
I
can you see
back?
me? Oh yeah, you're
I
back.
can
You're
see.
back.
Can you see? Okay.
We're
Yeah.
live,
So
folks.
no,
We're live.
we're live. Yes, technical difficulties happen. See, this is what. No, you know what? This is what happened when I was on the live with Neil Jackson. I said something about my husband, and it froze. Every time I mention him, something
Ooh.
happens. I think he's just
Is
like sending me a sign. He's like, "Don't you forget me."
or or is it Eric? Is Eric watching
The
right now?
gambler. The gambler. He might be watching, and he might just be messing with us. You never know. You never know.
I thought it would. I think it would have been pretty cool, and maybe this is, maybe they're leaving it open for season two, to see that, maybe with Isaac, because I don't know if he's confirmed, and I'll ask, Max, on his live, but it would be cool to see a backstory of you guys actually moving to Blue Valley, or maybe a backstory of how you met, the fiddler,
Right.
and how he taught you, how to play the violin and such. I mean, I would love to see that kind of backstory. Would you be open to something in season two like that?
Of course, that would be amazing. And I think one of the interesting things they did with this is in the original comics, the fiddler is this white guy that's a thief that ends up in India and ends up in jail, right? And then learns the art of hypnotizing through music from his cellmate, who's this older Indian man. So now in this Stargirl, what we've done is they've turned it into a female of South Asian descent. So in my mind, a backstory could look like maybe I'm the daughter of that man, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
taught that taught him. So maybe that's how that's at least part of the backstory that I gave myself, and so that
yeah.
keeps in line with the origin of how he made his way over to India. And maybe he was like he married the daughter of his teacher.
And, I appreciate that. That. That's awesome. A lot of folks don't know that I mean, the origin of the comics, and that's pretty cool. I mean, and the Fiddler is pretty ruthless, because I believe he then kills the gentleman that was in the cell with him that taught
Yes,
him the art,
yes,
right?
yes,
Uh, and then he goes and he kills the merchant that turned him in.
right,
So he's a pretty dark character.
yeah,
Um, you know, that
yes.
I think that would be pretty cool if they bring you back next season. And I don't know if you ever watched. Did you ever watch Arrow and see all those flashbacks?
I
I don't know if you
didn't.
got a chance. They use a lot of that flashback monologue to incorporate how they got to where they got in that scene. So I would be very happy to see something like that. I would be happy to see you next season. Hey guys, if you guys have questions, go ahead and put them on the comments at the bottom. We will answer your questions as we get to them. Is there any good questions right now? Do we have anything good here? I think we have the one about your hair.
Yes,
But while we're waiting for questions, I want to ask you about filming in Georgia. How
yes,
was that experience? It's not LA,
right.
you know. How was it? Was it tougher filming out there? Was it easier? How was that experience?
I think it was the same in terms of like productions run the way a production runs. The difference was we had just weather related delays, but I think that depending on where you are, that could happen in other places too. Um, but it was there. I don't think there was anything super unusual. I would just say there were some
Mm,
like weather delays, but that's about it.
okay. Yeah. LA, unfortunately, it's not that it's getting expensive. Neil Hopkins mentioned this last week. He said it's not that it's getting too expensive to film out here. It's just that other states are giving more incentives. So the
Yes,
hotspots seem to be Georgia, I believe Toronto, Canada, and Vancouver, Canada.
yes.
So when you see some of those backdrops, uh, it's mesmerizing, right? Uh, so before you got this role, were you aware of all the fandom that came along with playing a comic book character? Were you ready for the fandom?
I knew that I think the horror genre and the comic book genre has some of the most dedicated fans, right? And so I knew that. I had actually before Stargirl filmed Creepshow, an episode on Creepshow. So it's interesting that I got to see that these are some dedicated fans. And I knew that going in. I just don't know that I anticipated the amount of positive response that we got, which was amazing to see. But yeah, these fans are dedicated. They're like, they come up with theories and questions that sometimes I feel bad. I'm like, shit, I'm not doing my job well enough. Like, you're coming up with things that I hadn't even thought of. But it's really because they have spent so much time because they're so passionate about it, thinking about it and wondering about it and coming up with ideas. It's really amazing to see. I'm just sad
Yeah,
that with the pandemic, like, there's no Comic Cons and things like that going on. But when that picks back up, I think that'll be really fun to see people cosplay and dress up. That'll be great to see.
yeah, and you're right. The pandemic is really hindering the cons, and it would have been great to see you like at LA Comic Con or San Diego. I'm sure you guys were probably scheduled for San Diego this year, and to do panels. And yeah, I mean, kids dressed up as the Fiddler. That would have been so awesome.
That would have been cute. I have a feeling, the Fiddler didn't have like the coolest outfit. She just wore all green all the time. So that's easy to do, but I think some of the really cool outfits would have been like Dragon King, and some of the others would have been pretty amazing. But yeah, it would have been really nice to see that. I think we will. Just, the world needs to calm down a little bit. We
Yeah,
need to get out of the situation.
yeah, definitely. So I gotta ask you, how did you, what inspired you to get into acting? Was there like a life-changing moment for you? Did you did you go to the theater and see something that inspired you that just blew you away, or did you see something on TV and you said, "That's what I want to do"?
I think I was just greedy. I think as a little kid, I just wanted to be all the things. I just didn't want to be limited. And so I remember as a kid, your parents will say, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? Or in my case, they'll just tell you what you're going to be when you grow up. And I remember being like 7 or 8 years old and watching TV and thinking, well, if I'm an actor, I don't have to pick one thing. Like, I can be all the things. I could be a pilot, and I could be an astronaut, and I can be a lawyer. And I just remember having that thought of like, I can play these things, and so that'll give me, basically, I'll be those things. So that's
Yeah,
that's really what it was for me as a kid. Um, yeah, I just wanted to do all of it.
that's awesome. You're like a Swiss Army knife. You're a jack of all trades, right?
Yeah.
That is,
And I do genuinely think that that's such a fascinating part of our job, that you get to really go deep with these characters, and okay, we're not, really astronauts and pilots and doctors, but you get to have a little bit of an experience of putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and what does that life look like? And I think that's fascinating.
yeah, that's an interesting point, and thank you for that. Did you go so, I mean, when you were having those scenes with Max, your son Isaac, on the show, there's some very touching, poignant moments between you two. How do you get to that place when you're doing a serious role like that? Like when he came to you and he said, "Mom, I'm being bullied. This kid just he doesn't stop. He keeps
Yeah.
bullying me." And that moment was very poignant. I mean, and especially nowadays with social media, Neil mentioned, I'm glad I wasn't growing up, I'm glad I'm not a teenager during this time, because there's so much bullying in schools. But when your reaction during that scene, how do you get that emotion? Where do you go to a place, or how do you get in that zone?
Yeah, for me, a lot of it is working through moment by moment, uh, what's happening, and I think as an actor, you're always thinking about reacting to the other actor. So you're processing what they're going through, you're processing what that character is going through, because that's what we do in real life, right? We don't plan out what we're going to say. It's a response to what's in front of us and what we're getting. So it's a matter of putting yourself in you're playing that character. This is a mother whose child is now physically being hurt in some way. And I don't have kids, but I've got younger siblings, and I would lose my shit if someone hurt them. So,
Yeah.
those, it's not difficult to go there when you try to understand and put yourself in that person's shoes. And this is a mother, and that's her child. And whether he's 15 or whether he's 50, as a parent, like that's your instinct, right? You're going to protect your kid no matter what. And I think that that moment is a real pivotal moment for Anaya, because I think that's when she decides, okay, I need to change my parenting to be a little more strict with him and to
Yeah.
just enable him to be able to defend himself. And I think every parent probably struggles with that. I mean, you could probably speak on that, where you want to teach your kids to be kind and, turn the other cheek as much as possible, but you also want to teach them to stand up for themselves. And that there's sort of a fine line of like, don't become like the bully, but also take no shit. So, it's a fine balance, but I think that's what that moment is for her. That's what it was.
So that scene, I love that scene so much because that's exactly the response that I would have had, my wife would have had. My wife herself is a teacher,
Oh,
and she appreciated your response to that because there's only so much you can do to protect your kids. And when they're getting physically abused, that would have been the reaction from at least
right.
from me, maybe not from her because she is a teacher, she's got to abide by certain rules. But I have told my kids in the past, if they touch you, you beat the crap out of them. Excuse my
Yeah,
French.
and especially for, now you're talking about these characters where they are part of a villainous society. So at a certain point, that's going to come out. That's who they are. They defend themselves and defend their families at all costs. That's the link with all of them, right?
Yeah.
Except Brainwave. I mean, he's just he he put
he
us
he
all
is
to shame.
ruthless.
He is definitely all about the plan. He's all about the plan.
He's all in.
He is
Um,
drinking that Kool-Aid. You could not stop him.
how was, I mean, you brought him up. I mean, how was that? Were you on set that day that scene was filmed?
No,
Um,
not that
you were
day.
not on set?
No,
Was there any like lingering thoughts about it when you were, on set about that or?
we just reading the scripts were like, because we would read the script and just be blown away. And I think at first we're like, no, no, he didn't. He didn't really kill his own son. Yeah, I think we were just all pretty
It
shocked.
was shocking. It was.
We were shocked. Just reading the script, we were shocked. But then that's what keeps it so entertaining, because you're just like, well, shit, what's going to happen next week? You cannot predict this.
That's what I love about this show so much. There were so many WTF moments,
Yeah.
and especially the last two, 12 and 13, um, where we were just looking at each other here. We're like what? Like,
So did you expect that for 13? I mean, so spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, please stop listening, put us on mute.
yes, don't listen to this.
Were you expecting the demise of everyone?
No,
Yeah.
no. I was, I was rooting for all of the ISA. I mean, I was rooting for the JSA, but I was also rooting for the ISA. I was hoping there would be some sort of truce where no one had to go, you know. But at the same time, I know that,
That would have been hilarious if like we all just came together and hugged it out and we're like, okay, we know we've killed each other, but let's, yeah,
stop it,
slap
stop
on
it.
the wrist. Let's all hug. We'll pinky swear we won't do it again.
I
That would
mean,
have been, that might be an alternate ending that, we should go back and
yeah.
film.
I mean, because I truly fell in love with all of your guys' characters on the ISA. I mean, there are some that are coming back for next season. I'm truly hoping that they find a way to bring you back, whether it be via flashbacks or there was a fan theory where, someone said that your spirit transferred to the violin,
Yes.
um, and you speak to your son through that, through that medium. I don't know, but
Listen,
there's
anything is possible. Like, we didn't actually get to see Anaya's body. We saw that she was shot, but then we didn't see the body. We noticed that in the last episode, Isaac doesn't know clearly because he's being taken away to say by the teachers, like, well, what is your mom going to say about this? Let's find out.
yeah.
So I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and you just don't know. I was joking with someone, like, even Icicle, he is shattered at the end. Why can't someone just pick up the pieces, stick them in an ice tray, and put them in the freezer? This doesn't seem that hard, right? Put them back together again.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we might end up looking a little haggardly, when we're put back together. But why not? We could come back.
I mean, a crossbow to the midsection is not a death sentence, in my opinion.
You never know.
Definitely that would be cool if they brought you back in some capacity. I still think maybe the flashback way would be something to definitely consider because, I would love to see you raising your son. I would like to see, all that stuff, but we'll see where,
I
what
love
Mr. Johns
that
decides.
I love that hear this response and to hear people that are so interested in the stories of these characters. That is so touching, and it really speaks to how well these characters were written. And
Mhm.
I'm so grateful that people are invested and they're like, well, but tell me about your life. How did she grow up? What? So I think that is so sweet. I love to hear
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
We saw a little bit from Neil's character, Icicle. We saw, why
Yes.
did he become Icicle? Well, his wife died because of, the toxic dumping at her
Yes.
school grounds prior to them building the school. We know why he became that. Well, why did you become the Fiddler? I
Right.
want to see that.
Yeah.
Give me some backstory. I know that it's only 13 episodes, but I want at least a little taste of why you became who you
Well,
became.
you know what? Maybe it'll be like the Godfather movies where like you see the present and then it jumps to the past and then it might jump to the future. So that would be cool because right now they have definitely set up, you're seeing in the present how these high school students are becoming who they are. Like you see with
Yeah.
Yolanda's story, how did she have this anger and how does she become Wildcat? You see that with all of them. And it's so interesting to watch because then you understand how there's a little bit of good and a little bit of evil in everyone. You
Yeah.
get where that comes from. And you're right, we haven't totally seen that with all the ISA villains. We've seen some of it, but no, like we haven't seen it with the Fiddler. We haven't seen it with Tigress and Sportsmaster. Like,
Mhm.
although I think they might have been born evil. They
Well,
just enjoy it so much.
you just got to comment that the filler needs to come back, and I agree.
Oh,
But
thank
yeah,
you. Carlos Campos 2000. Thank you.
you're right though. You definitely need to get a little, more of that backstory. And you brought up Yolanda's story. That was such a wow. When I saw that story,
That was great, right?
um, that was great. And kudos to Yvette.
Oh,
She did
amazing.
amazing. Yeah, that was
Amazing.
amazing. And when you were up there at the podium, you were playing that mama bear and controlling everyone from, laughing at her. I thought that
Right.
was a very poignant moment as well.
Yeah, that was amazing to see how her story unfolded and and how we end up being a product of all of our experiences, right? I mean, she went from this popular, happy girl to all of a sudden just being shunned by everyone in school and how that's affected her.
Yeah. You know,
Aw, thank you. PC, they're
yeah,
so sweet.
you're getting a lot of love. People love you. They love you. They love your character. The scene where you guys hijacked the satellite, uh, I can't remember, it was like on some isolated road right before you get into Blue
Yes,
Valley.
yes.
I want more of that from your character. Your violin can shatter buildings. That's how powerful of a villain you are or of a character you are. I want to see more of that. Now, I know that Neil mentioned during your live that Jeff Johns had a scene, that opening scene where your husband is getting down with his violin and bringing down the building that they're fighting in with the Justice Society. But that's how powerful that your
Yeah,
character, the potential's there. I would have
right.
loved to have seen more of that.
I mean, I'll just take it a step further. I think the three of us, my husband, me, and Isaac, like we, with the tuba and the violin, like
Yes.
we can together harness all of that. When if you have three fiddlers fiddling away, that would be really cool to see. I just
Yeah.
wonder what would be interesting though is if one of them goes in a different direction. So if Isaac, for example, is like, I was joking with Hopkins and Joy about this. What if Artemis and Isaac fall in love like Romeo and
Oh,
Juliet? And then we're
um,
in-laws and I gotta come back and be in the wedding and we now we have to be nice to each other. And then you've got the wedding and maybe, my husband comes back and we fiddle a tune and we hypnotize all the guests.
oh my God. I don't think
Anything can
so.
happen.
That's true. I just can't see you playing nice with Tigers and Sportsmaster. I just can't. Or them playing nice with you.
So
There's going to be a lot of
what
animosity now because she
happens
shot you.
she did, but then what happens when our kids are in love? What are you gonna do then? We have to be nice to each other, right? I mean, but that's I think the interesting thing, like they're, hinting at that, right, with Breck and Cameron, with
Yeah,
Stargirl and Icicle Jr. Like, what if
yeah,
that
yeah.
ends up being a budding romance? Well, then whose side are you gonna take? Whose side are they gonna take? Because it gets confusing.
That would make it a very awkward dinner, and it did when they
Right.
invited Icicle and Icicle Jr. over for dinner. And when Stargirl finds out who Icicle really is, or who
Yes.
Jordan McKee is, that was a very awkward scene.
Yeah.
Uh, and then the scene with Cindy when she found out that who Courtney was, and
Yes.
she literally spent the whole day just it was a girlfriend's day, right? Like just
I loved that.
hanging out.
She was just enjoying. It's the playing with your food before you eat it, right? Like she's just
Yeah.
enjoying messing with her. Yeah.
Someone just said Tigress is savage for killing the Fiddler. Yes,
I
she
know.
is.
I know. She really is. Don't mess
Yeah.
with
So
Tigress.
we have some fan questions. Let's go to the first one. The first one is, what is your opinion on your husband's sudden death? And you don't
Quotation.
have to answer this one. And is there a deleted scene that explains it? So we kind of touched on that a little bit.
We definitely don't have a deleted scene that was shot and then all of a sudden didn't make it. That's not the case. Um, I don't know that he's dead. I don't think
We
so.
don't know, guys. We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. Maybe he just got injured and is in hiding. You know, maybe he has a second wife and family somewhere else. And maybe that's what I'm gonna find out. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good one. Or it could be a Courtney situation where, she always thought her dad was Starman and that he was killed, but he was living, like you said, a double life, right? So
Yeah, he
we
could
don't
be
know where
living,
he
he
is.
could, maybe he's not the fiddler at all. Maybe he's off, like, wearing, someone says he's in Disneyland. Maybe he's in Disneyland. Maybe he plays Mickey Mouse in Disneyland. Anything is possible.
Yes. We have another fan question. Was it hard to play a villain?
Oh, it's the best. It's so great. It's so much fun. It's so much fun to play these villains because you're not just a villain. It's like what you're saying. You have a secret identity, and so you're keeping it together during your day job, and just being like the strict but helpful principal. And then secretly you kill people. So that's sort of the best part because you get to indulge in both of these extremes.
I agree, and I think villains have more fun.
They do. I think so.
Uh, Thank you for that. We have another question. You don't have to answer this one. If you don't, if you choose not to, I would understand.
I could take
Favorite
the
cast
fifth.
member to work with?
I feel like oh, favorite cast member to work with? Wow. These people want to start some fights. Um I don't know if I can just pick one. I will say that my favorite scenes were always our ISA meetings. I think we've all said that. Like, favorite, hands down. We could not keep our giggles to ourselves. Like, we just had so much fun with each other. And this is the funniest thing, is that these evil supervillains in real life were just goofy and poking fun at each other. And anytime all of us were in a room together to film a scene, I think we were harder to manage than the actual kids. So that was the most fun, was when we had our restoration hardware table layer scenes, for sure.
And those were such memorable scenes too. Those were just
We were
amazing.
constantly like, what are we meeting about? We are the worst. Like, we would get together and like be very serious, and Icicle would, be like, well, what's on the agenda? Does anybody know anything? Literally, those were our meetings, and we'd be like, yeah, we don't know anything. Meeting adjourned. Like,
I could have totally seen like the gambler say, "Could we have done this through Zoom or WebEx or
yes,
something?"
yes. We could have sent a couple of emails. We could have sent a text like, what up? Anyone know anything? Yeah, it could
So
have, the entire meetings could have been emojis. That's all we needed, was emojis.
that that's
Question
so cool.
mark and one of these.
That's great. Our next fan question is, if you could play any DC Universe or CW Arrowverse character other than the Fiddler, who would that be?
Oh my God, that's a good one. Ooh. I don't know. I will have to, I would have to get back to you on that, because I think there's so many. I automatically thought, is there one that morphs into other ones? Like, this is the thing. I would love to play more than one. I think what would be fun to do is like, when you have like your kid or whatever to work day. I think that in Stargirl, the ISA villains should be like, take your villain buddy to work day. And like, we should some trade spaces and like try it out. Like, what does it feel like to be Brainwave? And we should be on a rotation, because I think that way we are amplifying our skills, broadening our
Yeah.
skill set and our resumes. Instead of just being able to hypnotize people, I could also, control your mind a little bit or freeze you. So I think
Yeah.
this is what we should do. I think we should write to human resources at the ISA and be like, listen, this ISA program that we've got going on is not, we need to diversify our skill set. So.
That's awesome. That's a great idea. I love that answer.
That's what we should do.
Someone just said, sending positive vibes your way.
Oh, thank you.
They love you. And I think someone asked a question in the chat here. Do you see it? If Shade never betrays Anastasia and appears in season 1, I think that, oh, okay. Any other questions? I think, no? Okay. Well, I truly appreciate you, Hannah, for joining my Speedcast this morning. You have been truly amazing this season on Stargirl. You've killed it. You've been awesome and amazing.
Thank you.
And I applaud your work. And is there anything you would like to say to your fans out there?
Just thank you, and keep watching. If you haven't seen it, go watch all the episodes. And we love your support. We really, truly do. And we look forward to bringing you a season 2, regardless of who's in it and who's not in it. We don't know. We will know when you know. But we love the support, and we would love to keep having that support in season 2. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is great.
I truly appreciate your time, and I can't wait to see what other adventures, hopefully you come back season 2. I'm so grateful for you taking the time. You are super talented, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've got someone saying they like the Take Your Villain to Work Day. Carlos. Thank you, Carlos. Let's make that happen.
And you have a very enjoyable rest of your day. Your son is coming up right now, your TV son.
Yes.
Max. So we're going to get, hopefully we get,
yes.
Something for next season. Maybe he knows something. We don't know.
I want to hear that what Max is going to feel like, what Isaac is going to feel like when Mama's gone. So
yeah,
there better be some tears, boy.
There's going to be some wrath there, I think. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much. You have a very safe day. Be safe out there. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Everyone, take care.
Don't forget to stay alive.
Yes, wear a mask, you guys. Thank you so much. Take lots of care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.